Welcome to another episode of the Fortitude Forum. Our next guest today is a special one. He is an estate planning attorney. He's a business succession expert. He's a veteran of the Vietnam War. He's an author, and the list goes on and on. He is James Moore. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here. You've got this diverse background from the military and business. And of course, we've got that sports connection going way back as well. So I'm excited for you to pour into the listeners a little bit and give them some insight and just add to the library of successful high performers that we're continuing to stack as guests on this show. Really excited to have you here. And I first wanted to ask, let's go back growing up, right? That's where it starts for a lot of us. And it's so important, those early moments. So even before you got to the Marines, was there influences or experiences that helped you shape your mental toughness?
Yeah, God bless my high school football coach. Like a lot of young guys growing up, I suppose, I had a dad from that generation. You didn't hug, you didn't kiss, you didn't say, hey, you're awesome. You didn't want to have people get a big head and yada. So I was in trouble a lot as a young kid, elementary and junior high. I was in fights all the time and just wasn't getting along at all. And then I find football. Hella freaking hallelujah. Kept me in school and probably out of jail. I don't know. And that, of course, was followed up by my passion, which was wrestling. So between those two things, and both of our coaches arbitrarily, Jack Verdine's in the High School Coaches Hall of Fame, we had to keep a B average. It wasn't the school criteria, but to wrestle and to play ball, you had to get a B average. So that's a ripple effect right there.
You mentioned wrestling and, of course, football, and we're going to get into your business career, which involves a ton of strategy. But I'm just curious, in those early sports days, what do you think that you learned about strategy, especially on the wrestling mat? There's a lot of mental capacity that needs to happen in terms of defeating that competitive opponent that you're up against. So, just curious if you've ever connected those dots.
It's a great question, Bill. Same thing. Team, you learn that with football. Do your job, all that stuff. And if you don't play as well. So my high school left tackle and right tackle on defense, we played a wide tackle six. So I got to key off the halfback. And if Roger Sickam on my side of the line, if he did his job, I'd make more tackles. The truth was, it's because he wiped out the right side of the line, and I just danced in there and looked like a hero. So you learn teamwork makes the dream work, all those things that aren't sound like cliches, but they're not. And then in wrestling, you train together and work together and drill together, but you walk on that mat, Bill, and it's mano a mano. So your strategy, you can't hide your strategy like you sometimes can in a team. You either got in shape and you were ready and you practiced your moves and you researched your opponent, or it was ugly. So at the juxtaposition of team versus mano a mano has been true my whole life.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. And then what actually compelled you to go from there into the Marines, and how did that experience influence not just the professional that you became, but also the man that you became as well?
We, in my generation, we had the draft. So you had to plan either go on to college or go make babies and have a family, which didn't seem like a good option to me. I got accepted, went up to Central, Michigan, as a walk on for the wrestling team. And I don't know how things were for you, Bill, but our counseling, I'm going to sound like I'm bashing teachers. I don't mean that at all. But when I was coming up, the counselor at school involved, you go in the office, he had a bunch of books on the shelf and said, well, go look at that. There really wasn't any guidance. So I was so naive. I get up for registration to Central, all signed up for my classes, and they say, how are you going to pay for this? I said, how am I going to what? I had no idea you had to pay for books and tuition and all that. And I already met with the wrestling coach. He said, oh, yeah, I've seen your clips from your coach. You come on out. You didn't get a scholarship, but walk on. You bet. Practice is next. And I just got on the bus and went home. So then you're looking at the draft, and I go, gee, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to join the Marines. So rather than face the draft, I decided I wanted to pick, and that's how I ended up enlisting.
So, was there an experience there or even a moment that tested your mental or physical toughness? I'm sure there were many of them, but there one that stands out? And how did you push through that adversity once you faced it?
I guess I would say, as I'm sure there's always a subtle but important difference between how you think things are going to go and then when you're actually in the experience of it. So I asked some friends I know that had been in the Marine Corps about boot camp, and they gave you their stories, etc. But until you actually step on the field and experience it, it's just someone else's opinion. So once you're saturated in something, you can fight your way to the top, or you can be influenced by people that don't know what they're talking about. So I've always enjoyed just getting into the experience right up to your nose, and away you go. So boot camp was just, I enjoyed every minute of boot camp. I must have been nuts. The physical training and the harassment and even the physical abuse that they were allowed to do in those days. I just loved all of it. It was like, oh my gosh. I found an environment where I could just thrive down there in South Carolina, and the bugs and the mud and the heat and the dirt, and it was way better than football.
Would you say it was easier than football?
I say it would be more difficult only because of the variety of things you have to do between the obstacle course and the studying and it's a blend of mental, physical, and psychological, being harassed and beaten down. Football was never like that. It was all about reaching your potential and coaching to the best of your ability. Our coaches didn't demean us at all or harass us. It was all about raise to the level of your best. And I don't know if that was true for everybody at the high school level, but that's the kind of coaching we had.
So it sounds like you really responded well to that type of environment, which is not an environment that a lot of people would respond well to. But what strikes me is your attitude and your perspective at that time really, I think, contributed to your success. So, talk about once you got past the boot camp stage, and then how did you actually start to think about that as a career in moving up the ranks and exactly in detail what you wanted to accomplish or get out of that experience?
I like to quote, I think it's Dolly Parton. I'm not exactly sure, but one of those. I don't know. You do some speaking and teaching, Bill, really well. And what's that old song about you? Say, as Einstein said, blah blah. And then if you forget, after a while, you go, someone said. Then eventually, you're just saying, as I've always said.
Yeah.
So I think it was Dolly Parton, but something about coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So you have these serendipitous moments that happen in your life, and then looking back, you go, "Oh my gosh!" So I was in the middle of my 4 years of active duty, on duty as a chaser at the Naval Prison in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I had a kick butt, squared away Marine Corps gunnery sergeant that ran our detachment, John Robitelli. Hey, John Robitelli, hey, Gunny Robitelli, and man, he would either hug your neck or kick your butt. It was just an awesome guy. And he called me down to his office one day and said, "Get in here, Morris." "Yes, good." He said, "Here, sign this." "Okay, huh? What's that?" He said, "You're taking a 4 year college equivalency examination on Friday, and you better score a 90 or there'll be hell to pay." "Sir, yes, sir." I didn't know what I was doing, so I scored a 93, which meant that in the eyes of the Marine Corps, I could go to officer candidate school without a degree. So off I went to Quantico, and I had that beautiful experience of having gone through Paris Island boot camp as a group, where if one screws up, everybody suffers. If you
Mhm.
screw up, we're all doing push-ups. Whereas in Quantico, in officer candidate school, everything was individually scored from making your bed and you could flunk out any time. We only graduated a third of our class. And I
Wow.
look back now, and then that led to the 21-year career. And unfortunately, Gunny Robitelli got killed in Vietnam. When I go down to Washington and all to visit my son, I always go to the wall and go find his name and pray. And he knew. He just said, "You're going to Officer Kennedy's," without having to explain or give me 18 books on it. He knew that's what I should do and just kind of led me there.
You bring up a couple of great points. I've been to that wall. That wall is just unbelievably emotional, even for somebody that doesn't have any attachment to it. I'm sure we've all got 6 degrees of separation to somebody that's on that wall somewhere, but it's very powerful. So if you got a chance to ever go to DC and check that out, definitely do that. The other thing though is the power of belief and the fact that he saw in you something, a future. And I think what he was probably thinking was that he saw some leadership qualities in you. So I was just curious, when did you start to look at yourself as somebody who could achieve things maybe greater than the people that you were in the military with, and then also have the opportunity to lead people, which is not, again, for everybody, but you certainly have had those qualities throughout your life. So when did you start to view yourself as a leader?
I think part of that experience for all of us is just recognizing the environment that you're in, whether it's sports or school or dance or basket weaving. There are those champions that have gone before us that have succeeded and left behind their footprints or their psychology or their philosophy or their checklists or their books or their whatever. There's a footprint. And if you look for the footprints, there's always a path to follow if you follow it and don't fight it. So obviously with sports, so structured, Marine Corps, are you kidding? It's just nothing but structure. And I just recognize that if you follow that pattern that's laid out before you, then you can emerge as the leader you want to be. So it's you within the system. There's not the leader. It's what kind of leader are you? And then it's either by design, which is training and self-discipline, or by default, which is real life experience. So the example being when I report to my infantry platoon in Vietnam as a brand new second lieutenant, and it was 2 weeks after the date I would have been discharged as an enlisted guy. And I'm going, geez, I don't know about this decision. Maybe I could rethink it. And it's so funny, the Marine Corps, it's 46 guys, underpaid, oversexed teenage killers with high powered weapons, and my average age about 17 and a half. And I was the old guy at 23, and all these sets of eyeballs like, what now, Lieutenant? So you rise to the level of your leadership ability and push beyond it, sometimes almost not against your will, but in spite of your skill and training.
So what type how would you describe yourself as a leader? Whether that's from your perspective today, thinking back to that very beginning time, what are 2 or 3 qualities that you think you really leaned on heavily as a leader?
I think it starts with your own self discipline. You got to lead yourself first. And that's just going through just even hell week with football. You don't get through that, you don't play. So you start with your own self to lead yourself through the tough stuff. Then there's the leadership involved with those above you that knows what's going on that you can emulate. And ultimately you say, okay, now that I know that, how can I leverage this? How can I make myself more of what I am? And maybe I'm a different leader than Bill, but we can all lead within our parameters if we're open to it. And the biggest thing is feedback. People, why don't we like feedback? There's no such thing as failure, just feedback, feedback. If you take it and use it and guide yourself, ultimately you move ahead. But if you're resistant to the feedback, you just stay stuck.
So true. It's so true. And I've talked about this in the past. And I think one of the reasons we don't like the feedback is because we're afraid of feeling judged or rejected, less than. It's uncomfortable. In a nutshell, it's just uncomfortable to know that you've got some flaws that you need to work on because that's going to be hard and take time and effort. So you're 100% right on that. Absolutely. So, my next question is I wrote a book on the transition that athletes face when their career is over, going back into quote unquote civilian life, because the athletic life, especially at a high level, is not normal either. So, I'm curious about your transition from the military back into civilian life. You chose law school. What was that like for you? What was going through your head, and how difficult of an adjustment was that for you?
Oh my goodness. At that time, there was a lot of political controversy too about the war and this, that, and the other thing. So when you're there, when you're in it, you're immune to that. If you're with me, Bill, my main goal is to make sure we survive and get home. And we didn't know what the heck was going on back here, but then you get home and you get ridiculed, and some of my guys were spit upon and all that stuff. It was a major emotional adjustment for a while for everybody. But anything else in life, you can wallow or you can stand up and say, well, what it is, it bees what it bees, to quote Mama Gump, and just get rolling. Point yourself in another direction, one foot in front of the other, and then see what life has to hold for you. I think you get stronger when you come out of that stuff, or maybe you don't. The one funny story is I was in the Marine Corps Reserve unit there in Lansing going to Michigan State, tried to walk on the team there, and coach said, "Now everybody here's scholarship, get a life." Anyway, I was working full time managing a gas station and a bar and full time student. And I was on a tight schedule, man. I had to get parking, get to class, and I couldn't be goofing around. So I'm booking across campus, and I didn't have any money, so the only winter coat I had was my Marine Corps field jacket. High and tight haircut when it was not. I obviously stuck out. And down by the tower, they were having an anti-war rally. Save the whales and stop the war and kiss the frogs and all that other stuff. And this idiot, long-haired, dope-smoking, beer-drinking hippie dude confronts me, gets right up on my grill. Now, how stupid is that? There's one of these baby killers. I said, look, pal, I'm just trying to go to class here. And he stepped in front of me again. So I armbarred him. I got him on the ground. I'm just choking the crap out of him. And here comes the campus cop. I look up. It was one of the sergeants from one of my reserve units. He says, Major, what the hell's going on here? I said, this guy's just got in my grill. He arrested him, and I went to class.
I'm sure there's a couple of lessons in there somewhere. I don't know if
Somewhere,
they're
yeah.
good or bad, but that's a great story.
Your question, though, was that you're on a mission, and you're not being mean. You're not. You just want to be distracted. Don't
Yeah.
tell me your tale of woe, and don't dump your. I'm not a. One speaker Dennis Wade used to say, "I'm not a garbage can with a hairy lid." Okay, don't come and dump all your junk on me. Go live your own life. If I can help you do that, great. But I don't need your junk.
Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about law school. Is there a challenge early on in that period of your life, or maybe even once you became a practicing attorney, that required that same level of grit that you needed to call upon from your earlier days in order to get through that?
The first day of law school orientation, the dean comes in and says, look to your right and left and introduce yourself. Okay, great. So we promise you that by the end of the first year, there'll only be one of you left. And so I hugged both guys on each side and said, you might as well quit now because it's obviously me. Going in, that's your setup to call out the serious people. That was a blend of absolutely loving the extreme intellectual and educational challenge, but the time commitment and the hours and all that was a real, as you say, grit's the best word for that. You just grit it out. And like anything else, I'm sure you had subjects in school you just loved, and there were others like, oh my gosh, I really have to do this. But you put your head down and you just keep rolling till, not knowing though, they never actually had you go talk to a lawyer and say, hey, do you like this? Are you enjoying it? Do you feel satisfied? Are you making any money? It's just, boy, get that doctorate. Just work, pass that bar exam until you get out in the real world. And my experience there was I was a prosecutor for a while, loved the courtroom, but just hated the turmoil, blues, and then was blessed to go to the trust department of a bank and loved working with the people, being proactive, do everything on the front to, you never want to say good morning, Your Honor, no hassles and no messes, and kill Darth Vader, the IRS. That was way more fun than being in the courtroom. So I learned that people side of it at the bank and then decided to focus just on that side of the law. So it's a metamorphosis like anything else. You get in it, figure out what it is and what you like and what you don't, and do what is your knack, I guess I would say.
You obviously found your lane, which is dealing with people. Along those same lines, how do you think that your background served you well in terms of dealing with people? Because you had some very, as you mentioned, structured backgrounds in military and sports, but there's also this other side, this finesse side in dealing with people. So how did you manage yourself through those early interactions or coach those other people, especially in your estate planning, your financial planning, and your business career?
Part of the maturity process, as I've even watched you talk, Bill, is getting to understand that it's all about the other person. And the more questions you ask, the smarter you look. And you really have to get involved in digging down into what makes people tick and then use your skill. If you do it the other way around, it's kind of like teaching a pig to sing. It doesn't work. It just frustrates the pig and makes you mad. So that idea to step back from the canvas and have the hard drive spinning with your skill, whether it's sports or whatever it is that you do, but then, okay, what's applicable in this situation with this person at this time, at this point in their life on this planet? And that's the fun. Studying the law is like watching paint dry or memorizing the playbook. Okay, fine. But man, when you make that first block and it works, it's, oh, I get it now. So it's just being patient with yourself. I see a lot of young people in all disciplines, and boy, they want to just go out and, boy, I'm a doctor now, I'm a dentist now, instead of, wait a minute, you really aren't, because you haven't learned the other side of it.
Yeah, yeah, very well put. Over your career, you've helped hundreds, probably thousands of people with their businesses, their estates. What do you feel is the most overlooked element of people passing on not just their wealth, but their wisdom as well to the people younger than they are?
Exactly what you just said. The book by, I won't think of the name now, so it's called Willing Your Wisdom, Willing Wisdom, as in willing it, business author. The whole idea, we don't talk about this stuff. Disability, death, dying, taxes. Oh, gee, honey, let's go see Jamie and talk about disability, death, and taxes. I'm fired up. Let's go early. So we get at the taxes. Oh boy, I'm going to, the 5 Ds with business: disability, death, disease, dissension, or deflagellanation. I can't ever pronounce it, which is being thrown off the top of a tall building. So we know life is out there, and we think if we just do this, somehow it will all work out. So I think it takes courage for people to say, "Look, I'm going to go face my life. There are solutions, and let's go find out what they are." You have to just be coachable and teachable. That's the joy of it. So for me to learn that not everybody wanted solutions. Some people just don't. They just stay stuck, and then it's the dumpster fire, and then I hear, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and it just makes me cry because it's all preventable with counseling and somebody to help you along the way.
Yeah. You hit on something there. You mentioned courage. Are there other personal character traits in addition to that that play a huge role in somebody planning their estate or even planning the succession of their business?
I think I'll stick with that. It's the courage to step back from where you are. What woke you up at 2 a.m.? What are your values and beliefs, and how do you want to preserve that and pass along your wisdom with your wealth or with your business? If that's the foundation, then the details are different. The techniques may be similar, but you may have a bigger or smaller estate than the person next to you. But if the foundation is, I love my family, I want to pass along my wisdom with my wealth, and I'm not anti-government, but there's two kinds of social capital: self-directed social capital, which is planning, and government-directed social capital, which is taxes. So why give them more than they can steward properly? So with the attitude of, I'm going to help myself and my family move ahead with my life, then the tools are fun. But if someone's not, it's the same with sports. If you're not coachable, you can have you take a super talented person, you've seen it, and they'll go a certain ways. But you give me hungry, teachable, above average, I'll kick your butt every day. I just love that coachable, teachable nature. And if you have both, that's your gifted athlete or your Olympic person.
I want to talk to you and ask you about. I just got a couple more questions, but I want to ask you about communication. You've worked with small business owners and large audiences, of course. What have you learned about communicating these complex topics in a very simple and effective way, and in a way where those people that you're talking to give you a positive response?
I like to use stories. And in the estate planning side, really, we tell the same 4 stories over and over again because they work. And you have to put people in the position of looking at the facts. One example would be you're going to work, you hit a pothole and run into a school bus, put yourself in a coma, and kill some kids. Oh, what a gruesome story. It's a true story. Now, what about your planning? So some of it's that water in the face. Others is some of the endowments we do where my largest client up in Sheboygan, not $1 of their several hundred million is leaving the county. It's all staying there to benefit the county because of their heart. It's that kind of stuff. If you It's the quadrant: mission, values, goals, and dreams, and then tools and techniques and strategies. And I think as advisors, most of us should stay more above the line first before you go. You want to go right down to the tools and techniques, and they're great tools. But if you don't start with vision and mission first, it doesn't matter what the tools are.
Yeah, that is so true. I love the way that you put that. Last question, James, and this has been awesome, of course. I knew it would be. You talk about preserving legacy values along with your wealth, and we've touched on that a little bit so far. But just in a nutshell, what does financial fortitude mean to you?
It's the ability to recognize your own place in the world, good, bad, or ugly, and then look at how it can impact others, a little or a lot. There's always some impact. You don't have to be super duper pooper scooper to benefit those around you. It's just got to be the right attitude, which is one of the reasons now we have that feature right on our website where people can go and take a legacy assessment instead of what we used to always do is, well, tell me about all your stuff. Here's your details, fill in the questionnaire, and what do you got, and let's start talking. But if I get them to start with thinking about the legacy first, same with the business owners, just a snapshot assessment of where's your company right now. It's not a report card or a scorecard, it's just a snapshot. And I find if they'll do that and take one step forward, then the picture starts to unfold. For example, last month, one of our webinars was just on how to make your funeral a teaching event. It's that kind of stuff. Like, what's more important to you than just you as a person and what you're leaving behind? Everybody thinks about it. We just haven't been asked much to express it.
You've accomplished a lot more than we've even covered here today. Tell the audience, if you would, number one, about your books, because you've written several of them. Tell them about where they can connect with you and tell them about how they can learn more about your services if they are in the market for what you do.
Thanks, Bill. They're both on Amazon. So go give me a 5-star review. You don't have to read them, just go give me a review. It's just James, middle initial L Moore, and the books are on the personal side, it's wealth family wealth protection planning. And for my business owners, it's how to sell or transfer your business to whom you want, when you want, for the money you want. And they're both right on Amazon. Our website is fun. There's white papers on there, a couple of webinars, and we can just be found at Moore, Moore, and Richard's Lebanese last name, Kerbawy, moreandkerbaway.com. There's a recorded webinar on there, the legacy assessment, white papers, free car wash. It's just full of stuff, full of swag. In fact, one person said, we couldn't find you on there. We're buried. The big picture on the billboard, 10 years of experience and books behind you. People don't care about that. They want to know, as Bill, with what you do so well, can you help me? They want content. They want personal vision. They don't want just all of your experience. And that's what we do.
Awesome, James. I thank you so much for being here. This was great. We will make sure to put that web address in the show notes because it's a long one. We'll make sure that's clear and everybody can get to it. James, best of luck to you. Appreciate your friendship and your knowledge and your wisdom and you taking some time today to join the Fortitude Forum. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Namaste.